Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Shodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ramo Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. We will be continuing with the Pearls of Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto. And just wanted to mention that I have a very little knowledge of Srimad Bhavatam, and I would request everybody to add on to the understanding of the first canto of Srimad Bhavatam. Start with prayers to Guru Maharaj. Om Jnanantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Radhanath Swaminiti Namine. Om namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatahni. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. We will be continuing with reading this, in short from the first canto of Srimad Bhavatam. Sukadeva Goswami speaking Srimad Bhavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. Let's quickly recap of what Srivas Pandit Prabhu very nicely covered the past 2 weeks. We know that Srimad Bhavatam starts with Suta Goswami actually speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, and sages were headed by Shaunaka, who was the spokesperson, and so he was asking all the questions on behalf of all the sages present in the Naimisharanya forest. Now, Suta Goswami heard the Srimad Bhavatam from Sukadeva Goswami while he was explaining Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So we're going to go more in detail about what was the situation that happened that he had to explain to Parikshit. Now we also went over, looking at the reason behind Vyasadeva compiling the 4 Vedas, the Puranas, and still feeling dejected with the whole thing. And then he decided that because of the input he got from his Guru Maharaj, Narada Muni, who said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless." He says, if suppose you do a lot of literature writing, but if it doesn't satisfy the transcendental senses of Krishna, then personally nobody gets the satisfaction. And we also got to see Narada Muni in his past life was actually a son of a maid servant, and how he got the opportunity of associating with great sages, and how he achieved the birth of Narada. So after hearing from Narada Muni, he decides to compile Srimad Bhavatam. So he fixes his mind and in complete devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, and without any tinge of materialism, he decides that he wants to start writing the Srimad Bhavatam. Now, the great sage Vyasadeva, while he was compiling Srimad Bhavatam and revising it, he actually taught it to his son, and his son was Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami was already a very self-realized person, and he actually taught the Srimad Bhavatam to his son, So we know that now, while we are towards the end of the first canto, we see how Sukadeva Goswami actually teaches it to Maharaja Parikshit. I always think that Srimad Bhavatam, when we read, there are different scenes in different times, and it's all getting connected. So we have to think it like a drama where we have different scenes. So now the next scene is Yudhishthira Maharaj. After all of us know about the Mahabharata war, the Kauravas and the Pandavas actually fought against each other. So Yudhishthira becomes the king of the entire planet Earth. I was thinking about how politicians, they actually want a seat just to win elections, and how they are behind getting a little bit of power. And Yudhishthira Maharaj had the power of ruling the entire Earth planet. And of course his capital was Hastinapura, and it was called Hastinapura because there were a lot of Hasti. That means there were lots of elephants there. And that's why he started, and Hastinapura was the capital for the entire Earth planet. So, the whole world was under the Maharaja Yudhishthira. And so he ruled over the earth, seas, and was followed by his younger brothers, the other Pandavas. Now, Sri Hari, Lord Krishna, was, of course, residing in Hastinapura for some time, because Mahabharata Yuddha was over, the whole war was over, and then he continued to stay for some time just to pacify his relatives, and of course exclusively to pacify his sister Subhadra. She was Arjuna's wife. Now, we know that Subhadra had a son called Abhimanyu, who was actually, by deceit, the Kauravas killed Abhimanyu. And Abhimanyu had a beautiful wife, Uttara. And while before even, he knew that, because of the war, he actually passed away, but Uttara was already expecting his baby. So that little baby was Maharaja Parikshit. The womb of Uttara, mother of Maharaja Parikshit. Now the most important part here is, we know that all of the Kuru dynasty was gone. And there was one person, Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama. He was very envious of the Pandavas. He wanted to see to it that he couldn't vanquish the Pandavas. So he wanted to vanquish at least the last sign of their dynasty, who was Parikshit. So while in he actually sent in the Brahmastra. He wanted to make sure that the last seed in their dynasty should be killed. So, but then Maharaja Parikshit was saved by Krishna, because Uttara comes to Krishna and begs him, can you please protect my baby? So Krishna, actually, it's explained so beautifully that Krishna has little, in the verse it's explained that he was only a thumb high, and he was all transcendental. He was beautiful, he was blackish, he had an infallible body, and he wore a dress of a lightning yellow and a helmet blazing with gold. And in this way, he went around her belly, and this was seen by the child. And upon, that great is Parikshit. So we're talking about the greatness of Parikshit Maharaj, because he is the person who is going to receive Srimad Bhavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. So upon the birth of the son, of course, Maharaja Yudhishthira knew exactly well how to take care of all these things. He actually gave in charity gold, land, villages, elephants, horses, and lots of grains to all the Brahmanas who were present and in his kingdom. Now, we always know that the moon will wax and wane, and as the time goes, Parikshit he developed into a beautiful young prince. And of course, he was taught all the knowledge from the scriptures, the Astra Shastra, everything, so that he becomes a very capable king. Now Krishna comes, and like we said, this is a like scene by scene drama where Krishna actually mainly does this so that he can reclaim the souls from the material world. Krishna is very merciful. He always wants to see to it that the souls who are suffering in this material world, unaware of their suffering, the reason behind their suffering, he wants them to know that this is the reason, and then he will of course disappear from the material world, because he just comes in, like Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy. He gives an analogy of a jailer who comes, who takes care of the needs of the people, and then he goes away. So it's not his permanent place to stay. So after the Mahabharata war, Krishna was going to disappear. So the part goes like this. Now Arjuna, Maharaja Yudhishthira said to Arjuna, how about you just go find out how is Krishna doing in Dwaraka? So Arjuna goes on behalf of the whole Kuru dynasty to Dwaraka, and he finds out, he wanted to find out what his next activity should be. He was a pure devotee of the Lord. He wanted to make sure that he knows what else can he do. So, after a few months, Arjuna did not return. So Maharaja Yudhishthira then began thinking, he started seeing some inauspicious signs, and he was not too sure what was happening. So while Maharaja Yudhishthira was thinking this way, Arjuna came back from Dwaraka. So he asked him so many questions. He asked him, because when Yudhishthira sees Arjuna, Arjuna is very upset, very sad. So Yudhishthira has lots of these questions. He asked him, are you sad because of this? Are you sad because you hurt somebody, you offended somebody? Are you sad because of, so many reasons? And he realizes that and towards the end he asks, or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Or my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for you becoming dejected. So towards the end he realizes that, is it the reason that because Krishna has left from the material realm to go back to Goloka? So is that the reason that you are feeling dejected? And so Arjuna was a celebrated friend of Krishna, right? He was totally grief-stricken. He just couldn't take it. He was feeling a very strong separation from Krishna. And above all, when you're already feeling sad and people keep asking you questions over it, he just couldn't take it. He was totally broken in tears. And Arjuna said, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. That's what he says. And thus he says, thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. Because he is a pure devotee of the Lord, he knows that everything that he has got, everything that he had acquired in Mahabharata war or anything that he did in his life is because of the presence of Krishna. He says, I was able to, fight the entire war, win the war, do everything. It was just because Krishna was with me. And now I am totally, I have nothing. I don't have any power. Now, upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, Yudhishthira Maharaj understood that the Yadu dynasty's earthly activities was done. And so Maharaja Yudhishthira decided, when there is no Krishna, I don't want to stay here. I want to go back too. Now we'll get to know what is the relationship that Pandavas had with Krishna, right? Because they were so intimate. They couldn't live on the earth planet without him. So when Lord Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, left his earthly planet in his self-same form, from that very day, the Kali Yuga begins. Now we are in the Kali Yuga. The day when Krishna left this earth planet after the Mahabharata war, that's the first day the Kali Yuga has begun. There were signs, partially appeared, but because of the presence of Krishna, it was not so totally self-manifest. Now Maharaja Yudhishthira was very intelligent. And he was very intelligent, and he understood the influence of the age of Kali. He knew that the age of Kali is coming in full strength. So he said, I'm ready, I'm leaving the home, and I'm going to, he dressed accordingly and he left his kingdom. So we can imagine how much of attachment he had for Krishna, and he had no attachment for material possessions. He had the entire kingdom under his feet. He was the king. He had everything that any person would want materially, but all those were nothing for him. He did not care for them. He just left everything, and he just dressed up like a normal, not like a king, but just with normal clothes, and he left the kingdom. Thereafter, what happens to Hastinapura? Because the king is going to leave and the Pandavas are going to leave, what's going to happen to Hastinapura? He knows that his grandson is totally qualified. So he actually makes Parikshit Maharaj, the son of Abhimanyu, as the king. And so he becomes the emperor of the entire earth planet. So that's the situation now. The next scene is Maharaja Parikshit becomes the king of the earth planet. Now after that, we just talked about it. So he was just going to eat only, just drink some. He was not even going to eat any solid foods. He was voluntarily became dumb, and he just left home. Now he did not depend on his brothers. Can we imagine that he was all the time with his brothers? When he decided to leave, he was just leaving by himself. And of course, his brothers were pure devotees too, so they just followed him. Now, they all performed wonderful principles of religion all their life, so they knew that their supreme goal, or the last thing that they want to reach, is Krishna. They didn't have any other goal. Everybody had one goal, that was Krishna. So the brother was leaving the kingdom and going, so all the younger ones followed him. Now, because of the pure devotional service, Pandavas actually, thus by pure consciousness, due to constant devotional remembrance, they attained the spiritual sky, which is ruled over this by Supreme Narayana, Lord Krishna. Now, it is said in Bhagavatam that this is attained only by those who meditate upon the Supreme, without deviation. Now, thus, this abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavana, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in the material conception of life. This is a very important part where they mention that this particular situation cannot happen to anybody else, but only to those people who are totally dedicated. They don't have any material tinge. They have to be completely material free. They have to be totally Krishna conscious. The Pandavas, being completely washed of all the contaminations, they attained the Goloka Vrindavan in their same bodies. Now Vidura, we know Vidura was the uncle of, maybe they can get some prasadam. Yeah, thank you. So Vidura, who was actually on a pilgrimage, he left his body in a place called Prabhasa Kshetra, and he was absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. Now it was different for Vidura, because Pandavas were actually eternal associates of Krishna. They go back to Krishna. They went back to Goloka. But Vidura actually had a position as a demigod. He is none other than Yamaraj. So people who do falls and they have reached hellish planets, they are actually, taken care by Vidura, but none other than Yamaraj. But people who are really pure in devotional service, he's going to see to it that they actually are taken care. So he actually goes back to his original post. He comes to do this particular pastime for Krishna just for that sake. So he didn't go back to Godhead yet. So Draupadi and Subhadra, both of them, they knew exactly what their life's goal was, that they have to attain to Krishna. So the personality of Godhead. So both she and Subhadra also became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husbands. Now we're seeing in this particular regard that everybody is an individual soul and everybody is part of Krishna. And whatever relationships they have in the material world, it doesn't matter. The most important thing that they're thinking about is Krishna. Whoever thinks about Krishna attains Krishna. They may have different relationships, but here we can see that Yudhishthira Maharaj decided by him, he decided and he left. And the brothers had to follow. So everybody have their independence. They have to use their independence to surrender to Krishna, to achieve the ultimate goal. So it's not that, of course, it does make a difference when you have a devotee person in a family. It will help the people in the family. But to attain Krishna consciousness completely, there should be the use of the independence of each and every soul, individual soul in their own regard. So the subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu was the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead. Now it's actually so nice. I just want to read this directly from Bhagavatam. It says, the subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life. Anybody who believes in, has a complete faith in this and listens to this whole thing that Pandavas have gone back to Goloka, it's said in Bhagavatam that they will certainly gain the devotional service of the Lord, and that which is the highest perfection of life. Now, Parikshit is the king of the entire earth planet, right? So the next is, he starts ruling over the world and he's fine until, before he sees any Kali influence, of course, he's married to the daughter of King Uttara. Usually according to the Vedic tradition, you can get married to your uncle's daughter, that's cousin sister, because they are not of the same Gotra. That's mentioned in Bhagavatam, because Arjuna also marries Subhadra, who is his cousin, and because Krishna is cousin too, right? So Krishna's sister, Subhadra. Similarly, Parikshit marries Uttara's, the king of Uttara, son. So that's Uttara's brother's daughter. So So that is okay according to the Vedic scriptures. They should not be sagotras. They cannot be the same gotra, but they can be different gotras. Because if you have the same gotra, you're from the same lineage. You cannot get married to the person in the same lineage. So that's why he gets married, and he had actually got 4 sons, and his eldest son was Janamejaya. Now, while Maharaja Parikshit was residing in the capital, he realized that the age of Kali was, infiltrating in from all directions into the complete state. He took up his bow and arrows, and he decided that I am going to kill this Kali personified. Let me go and kill this Kali personified. What we are looking at, the Kali Yuga, is actually there is a Kali person, personified Kali. So he says, I have to really take care of this, because he was a true devotee and a true king. He wanted to always take care of his people. So Kshatriya basically means, Kshat means hurt, and Trayate means to get relief from. Like the same word that we use for mantra, man is mind, and Trayate means to get relief from the stress, to relieve the mind from the stress. That's mantra. So Kshatriya, so he was a true Kshatriya. He wanted to see to it that all the citizens in his kingdom are free from hurt. That's what Kshatriya means. So while Maharaja wanted to do this, he reached the place and he actually saw Kali as a, in a form of a king, and he was actually hurting a bull and a cow. The bull is none other than, has 4 legs. So bull is personified as the religion, and the cow is personified as earth. So he is ill-treating them. So when Parikshit Maharaj went and stood before the Kali personified, he was really afraid. Kali really got afraid. He said, he's a pure devotee and he's going to take me. He's going to get me. So king was willing to kill him. He at once abandoned the dress of the king, and under pressure, he completely surrendered under Parikshit Maharaj's feet. He said, you have to give me shelter, don't kill me. So he says, he says, you are the protector of all the religions, and you please fix some place for me. He says, where would I go? I want to stay somewhere. He says in Kali, I want to stay somewhere. I cannot be totally gone. So Maharaja Parikshit says, you can stay in 4 places. One is where there is gambling, where there is drinking, where there is prostitution, and where there is animal slaughter. So these are the 4 places you can be. So I was relating to the 4 regulative principles of Krishna consciousness: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. So these are, because Maharaja Parikshit gives permission to the personality of Kali that he can stay in these 4 places. So these are the 4 places Kali is going to stay. He was given permission to stay. And then Kali asked, can I stay in one more place? So he says, okay, you can stay in a place where there is a lot of gold. So whenever there is gold, there is falsity, there is intoxication, there is lust, there is envy, and there is enmity. So the 5th place that he is going to be able to stay, he says, is the place where there is gold. So now Kali will not be available everywhere in the Kali Yuga. So basically it's surely going to be in these 5 places. It's nice for devotees to know what are the things that we don't want to accumulate or do. Now Maharaja Parikshit is, okay, now he's fine, he's happy, he's settled down, and he wants to make sure that, that everybody is happy in his place. And one day, while he was going on hunting in the forest, they practice hunting. Now, it's not like these days that people go and hunt and kill animals. They used to do it because they have to practice this for the sake of protecting their citizens. So he was going on hunting, and he's so tired, he's hungry, he's thirsty. So he decides that he wants to go to a place, one of the ashramas that's there in the forest, and it just so happens that the place belonged to Samika Rishi. Now Samika Rishi is actually sitting down and he's meditating. He's meditating and he's totally, he has closed his eyes and he's totally in trance. And Maharaja Parikshit goes there. He's not received. There's no formal welcome. He was not offered a seat. There was no water. There was no sweet words. So he feels very neglected, so he becomes very angry. Now I want to mention in this situation that all these devotees who come and do these help Krishna with all his leelas are really pure devotees. So, in true sense, he's a pure devotee. He's not going to get angry for such things. But Krishna puts them in such a situation so that Bhagavatam could be spoken for other people like who are totally in ignorance. So in this situation, the scene is such that he is getting angry, and so he gets upset, and while he is walking out, he sees a dead snake. So he picks the snake and puts it on the shoulder of Samik Rishi. And then he leaves. So when he puts that on the shoulder of Samik Rishi and leaves, he returns to his palace. Now what happens is, the sage has a son, and the son's name is Shringi. Shringi is actually not a very mature kid. He's a little kid who's playing with his friends, and he is just he heard that his dad is in distress, and there was some person who was a king and who put the dead snake on his father's shoulder. So then he immediately gets angry and he curses the king. He says, "On the 7th day from today, a snake bird will bite the most wretched one of that dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit, because of his having broken the laws of etiquette by insulting my father." So even till that date, when Brahmanas cursed somebody, it used to happen. But we get to know that after that it didn't, because nobody should misuse what they have. So in that sense, little Shringi, the son of Samik Rishi, did misuse it. Now when this father got to know that his son actually cursed Maharaja Parikshit, he was lamenting. He knew that Maharaja Parikshit was a very great soul, and he did not like the part that he was not able to approve the part that his son has done this. So he does get to see to it that the king gets to know that in 7 days you're going to die. So exactly in 7 days that he was going to leave this planet. Now while returning home, Maharaja Parikshit was also thinking, I did some fault. This Brahmanas are powerful, and I have to wait for something that's going to, terribly happen. There will be a consequence. There will be some distress. So while he was already repenting for what he did, Maharaja Parikshit, and I also want to again mention that these devotees, like how Arjuna was put into under Maya, according to, when we read Bhagavad Gita, we see that Arjuna was, he was trembling with fear, and he put his Gandiva bow. In real sense, these are all things that Krishna makes it happen, so that he can talk Bhagavad Gita. Now he will not be able to talk Bhagavad Gita to a non-devotee. So he will make situations in such a way that in real sense, Arjuna was not confused what to do. He knew what he has to do, right? Because he knew exactly how things have to go. He knew he has to please Krishna is the utmost part that he has to do. Similarly here, Parikshit Maharaj was put in a situation where Srimad Bhavatam could be spoken. So while the king was repenting, he received news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of a snake bird occasioned by the curse spoken by the sage's son. The king accepted this as good news, for it would be the cause of his indifference towards worldly things. Now same like Maharaja Yudhishthira was ready to leave the kingdom and go, Parikshit didn't even have a couple seconds to think, oh, I should not have done this, or maybe something else should have happened. He was happy. He got to know that in 7 days he was going to die, and he decided, yes, that's it, I'm leaving everything. And so he sat down firmly on the bank of Ganges to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness. He was Krishna conscious since his birth, so he rejected all other practices of self-realization. This is a very important part here. There are many people, they take different routes, and Krishna consciousness is the direct straight route. So he says that he left everything else that any person would be doing, because transcendental loving service to Krishna is the greatest achievement, superseding all other methods. So he knew that this was the best thing that he could be doing. Thus the king, the worthy descendant of the Pandavas, decided once and for all, and he sat on the bank of Ganges to fast until death. He decided that he is going to die in 7 days. In 7 days, I'm going to fast, and I'm going to he vowed to remain as a sage without any attachments. Now, Sukadeva Goswami, as we know, there's a very beautiful story that starts with, how liberated was Sukadeva Goswami. he didn't want to come out of his mother's womb till he was 16, and when he came out, he actually left home. He had nothing to do with the material world, no father, no mother. He was so realized, and he didn't have any attachments to all these things. So Sukadeva Goswami was actually traveling around, and he was preaching to everybody. He wouldn't say, it is said that Sukadeva Goswami would not stay under a tree more than the time that you take for milking a cow. That's it. He'll just stay there, and he will associate with the grihasthas in that house only for that second. And why would he do that? Just because he can give that sukruti, that connection to Krishna through them. In olden days, they do say that, Brahmanas have to go take bhiksha. They have to go take bhiksha. Now, the reason is not that they're going to take bhiksha because they need food. They go to take bhiksha because they can give their association to the grihasthas there. So the grihasthas, they're so busy doing their own set of things every day in and out. So they get that sukruti and they understand how to become Krishna conscious. They will give their association for that little bit. So the King Parikshit was very fortunate. And he actually, while he was sitting to fast until dead on the Ganges River, on the bank of Ganges River, it so happened that Sukadeva Goswami arrived there. Now all this is because as planned by Krishna. We know that this is one of the scenes in the whole beautiful dramas, right? That he sets up so that he can reclaim the souls. Now he says that the fortunate King Parikshit said, "O Brahmana, by your mercy only you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage. All by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy, we who are not unworthy royalty, became eligible to serve the devotees." He says this because, royalty means a lot of money, lot of women, lot of wine, all these things are present. And he says that we are unworthy for a sage to even come and see and talk because they're so materially with matter all the time. So he says that we are unworthy royalty, become eligible to serve the devotee. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your lotus feet, and offering you a seat in our home. He's just trying to praise Sukadeva Goswami, who's completely worthy of the praise. And he's saying that how fortunate that I am able to actually meet you at this juncture of his life. The king thus spoke and questioned the sage. So the whole Srimad Bhavatam said that we see from the first canto to the 12th canto, the whole thing talks about the questions that Maharaja Parikshit will ask Sukadeva Goswami, and what are the answers Sukadeva Goswami answers. So today I just will do in gist about, what are some of the questions and what are some of the answers from Srimad Bhavatam, first canto. Prabhu, can we have this one on the... No need. So he says that, so he asked some questions. No need. She's in the second canto. That's okay. So what are some of the questions that he asks him? The first question he asks is, what is the ultimate benefit for mankind? We have a human body. We have a human life. What are we supposed to do? While I took my Bhagavad Gita course for the first time in Radha Gopinath temple, I remember that the Prabhuji who did the course actually mentioned that we have a computer, we have a manual that goes with it. We have a microphone, there's a manual that goes with it, how to operate. We have a refrigerator, we have a manual that goes with it. Similarly, when we have a human body, the manual that goes with it is Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhavatam. Or what are we supposed to do with this body? And the most amazing fact is most people are very particular about when they get a cell phone, they'll look at it and they'll take down every little bit. But it gets so hard to convince people to get Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, which is the most important thing. He says, what is the ultimate benefit of mankind? After describing that devotional service to Krishna as the essence of scriptures, now we're going back to the part where Suta Goswami is actually talking about this. I just want to recap that part in the beginning that we mentioned. So the Bhagavatam starts with Suta Goswami talking to lots of sages in the forest of Naimisharanya. Suta Goswami heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami when when Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami were having a conversation, Suta Goswami was also present in the audience. So then he takes all the crux of it and goes to Naimisharanya forest and again tells to all the sages. Now most of the pujas that we do at home also, if you see, it will come from these talks between the Shaunaka Mahamuni and Suta Goswami. You know, most people, they do Lakshmi Puja, they do all these puja. You know, when they read the book, it will always be from that talk. So the question is, Suta Goswami starts explaining that the ultimate benefit for people in general is to become free from material bondage and develop love of God through devotional service offered only to Krishna or his plenary parts. Now he says this because everybody, every living soul is actually part of Krishna. And they are, Krishna as a whole, and we are all part of Krishna. Now, when Krishna has independence, we also have independence because we are part of him. But we use our mind in independence in a wrong way, that we don't want to serve you, or, you know, we don't want to be with you. So Krishna creates this material universe just for making such souls happy. He just sends them here. And again, when a person understands that the ultimate benefit of me being is to serve Krishna because I am part of Krishna. I can't imagine that part of my body would, like a nice analogy that Prabhupada gives is, I have this body, my stomach says, you know what, I'm the one who actually is working the most for digesting food. I decide not to give it to anybody else, but I want to eat it myself. So the purpose of it is lost. Similarly, we are part of Krishna, and Krishna as the whole, we all have to serve together to please Krishna. When we do that, automatically we are going to be pleased because we are part of Krishna. So that's the reason. He says that the ultimate benefit of people in general is to become free from the material bondage and develop love of Godhead through devotional service offered only to Krishna or his plenary parts. Now, we will also find the answer to this in Srimad Bhagavatam. Why only to Krishna and why only to his plenary parts? That's part of talking about how the whole manifestation happens. Who is the king? Like in a kingdom, when you have a king, you have the first set of divine, like how you have the president. The president has the first set of ministers and the second set of ministers. Similarly, Krishna, and then all the Vishnu forms, and then Brahma, Shiva, and then all the demigods who take care of the working of this whole universe, material planets. So that's the reason, and we go more in detail in Srimad Bhagavatam and other cantos to see why does this happen? Who does what work? How is this, it's so nice to read some of the cantos where it explains that how are these four-legged animals born? How is the little, reptiles are born? So, it talks about every little detail. And I was hearing a lecture, and Guru Maharaj was saying that Charles Darwin took his thing from Padma Purana, because Charles Darwin, he belonged to Great Britain, and India was under the rule of Great Britain at that time. So he did some changes, of course. He didn't directly take it and put it in his book, but he did some changes. Because of the changes, we don't totally believe in it. But he became famous also because the main foundation was taken from Padma Purana. But we get to know when we read Charles Darwin's theory and we read from Srimad Bhagavatam about what are the different kinds of animals, how are they divided, vertebrates, invertebrates, and things like that, and how are they divided and why are they divided? They're divided according to the number of legs that they have. So you go more in detail about that and see the science part of it. You get to know about, whatever we read in science, that we get to know about it. And I was also thinking that, as far as the birth of a baby is concerned, from the day one of conception till the end, all those details are present in Srimad Bhagavatam. If you take a pediatrics book, while I was studying in college, I remember that we had to do one subject as pediatrics. We had start in pediatrics books, it usually starts from the 3rd month. There is nothing before 3rd month. But Srimad Bhagavatam tells from conception till 9 months. So this is more in detail a pediatrics textbook than what pediatricians are using today. Now when we move to, in the 3rd canto, it talks about the planets. It actually talks about atom. It talks about nuclear energy. It talks about how to create these things. So that will be more, and also talks about astrophysics. So nuclear scientists can go refer to Bhagavatam. They get astrophysics, physicists can refer to Srimad Bhagavatam. So every subject matter that any person wants to learn more in detail, I mean, they don't have to really go to research and find out. Now, we do know that we have some limitations with our senses, right? I mean, I cannot see, I cannot hear, I have a range of what I hear and what I see. So, with that, we get to know whatever is there in Srimad Bhagavatam is all pure. And everything that we are seeing outside is only a little bit part of it. But Srimad Bhagavatam gives even the parts that we are not able to visualize. And the second question he says is, what is the essence of all scriptures? Why should I read all the scriptures in so much detail? Now, the part that I just mentioned before is because there are people who actually, when we do book distribution, they say that, why do we have to get these books? You know, it's always nice to say that it doesn't matter if you believe in if you believe in God and things like that, but you also get a lot of input from whichever, whoever you are, engineer, a doctor, or anything, you have something for you in the book. So it's worth taking. So the next question he asks is, what is the essence of all scriptures? And so he says, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is confirmed as the only object of worship, and establishing one's lost relationship with him in love and service through devotional service is proclaimed as sum and substance of the Vedic literatures. So we know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the main goal of reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranas, Mahabharata, everything is because of understanding Krishna. We need to understand who's Krishna, and we have an eternal relationship with him. Like we might be his friend, wife. There are so many relationships that it's an individual relationship with Krishna that we all have. And the only thing is, we have lost the thought about it. In one part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very nicely explained that there's a question that comes up. Why would, we are all pure souls. Why are we suffering? Why pure souls should suffer? So he says so beautifully, he says that if the analogy that Shivasmana Prabhu was giving in the class was, if there are two friends and they go to a hotel and one person is sleeping and the other person is wide awake and he's doing some work. So the person who's sleeping is suddenly screams and he says, oh, there's a lion and it's eating me. And his friend would just pick a bucket of water and throw it on his face. And he all of a sudden gets up and he says, oh, sorry, I was dreaming. So he says that similarly, we are all in the material world more in a dreamy state. In real sense, we don't suffer. But when we realize that our relationship with Krishna is eternal, and then our place is not this, and we have to go back to Krishna to serve him, automatically the suffering diminishes. I was remembering that we have many Guru Maharajas, and I was in particular thinking about a couple of Guru Maharajas who actually were keeping unwell and who left their bodies. I was thinking about them, and I was thinking that he didn't have any pain. In real sense, the nurses were coming and telling that, oh, you know what, he's sick, he's not supposed to do, but he was all fine because he already had attained his relationship with Krishna, even though in real sense, Maharaj had some kind of a cancer. He didn't feel the pain. He didn't feel the thing. The nurses around were telling that, oh, you know what, this is not fine. I mean, we've never seen anybody in this way. So once you have the connection with Krishna, automatically you're out of the dreamy state. You don't feel this pain, you don't feel the suffering. And how do we get out of it? Is of course by chanting, and we will get to know more about it. The third question that he asks is, for what reason did the Lord take his birth from Devaki? Now we have this very famous Bhagavad Gita shloka. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. He says, he comes to reclaim all the souls in the mode of goodness. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. He says that I will come and I will take care of all the souls. Because I was thinking about an analogy, like most parents will relate to this. When we have our child, we tell the child, you have to listen to me, you're not supposed to do. There are times when children really go against and they say, I don't want to listen to what you say, and I want to do what I want to do. So I still because of my love and affection for the child, I will see to it that I want to oversee. I want to make sure that nothing is going wrong. I will always be, at least in my heart and soul, I always be with my child and see that everything is going well. Similarly, Krishna, we are all his eternal servitors. He loves us so much. We decided that we don't want to stay with you, we want to go away, but he's still with us as Paramatma. He sits with us and he's waiting. As in Mundaka Upanishad, there's a beautiful shloka that says that there's there's a mango, and the soul is busy eating the mango, and Krishna is watching all the time, and he says that he's waiting to see that when will this little soul stop eating the mango and look at me. So Krishna is waiting, like how we take care of our kids. Krishna is waiting to see, maybe now, maybe later. He wants to give us chance. He will keep appearing over and over again, letting us know, you're living in a temporary material world. This is not for you. There is birth, there is old age, there's death, and there's disease. All these four are going to exist in this world. And you have to give this up. And he explains the process of how we can get rid of all this and come back to him. So when the little bird is eating the fruit, Krishna is just waiting to see, okay, now he's going to look at me, I will take him back. So similarly, I was thinking that like how the parents always want to make sure that the kids are protected and taken care, Krishna as a Paramatma is always looking at us, always taking care of us. And when we say that we're done, we want to go, he's ready to take us back. And the next question that he asks is, describe the activities of the incarnations of the Lord. Fully describe the activities of Lord's Hari's incarnation within this universe. So these are the two questions which are kind of related. So there's a beautiful spiritual sky that we know where we actually belong to. And there is no birth, there is no old age, there is no death, and there is no disease there. And that's why it's called Vaikunta. Vai means no, Kunta means misery. So there are no four miseries there. None of the four miseries there, and people always live happily. They never get old. I mean, it's very hard to think for a person when he hears this for the first time. How can a person not get old? But that's true. We get to know from scriptures. That's the reason even a very old 90, 80-year-old man always feels he's young and energetic, because he's really young and energetic as far as his soul is concerned. His body withers away, and Bhagavad Gita has a beautiful shloka, Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grihnani naroparani. He says that we will change these bodies over and over. It's like changing shirts. I have this shirt, this sari today, and I might change. So the clothing keeps changing, but in real sense, the soul is always the same. So this beautiful spiritual world, and Krishna says, some of the part of Krishna decides, we don't want to be with you. We want to be ourselves. So Krishna creates a small little Mahatattva, and he enters the Mahatattva as Karanodakashaya Vishnu. He's lying down on a Karana ocean, and from his skin pores, the Karanodakashaya's skin pores, universes are emanating. And they are like footballs. They are actually they are just, I was just trying to think that when we explained this, how Newton created, talking about how these planets all stay in orbit. Who is making that happen? Even for a model, even when we see a model of a planetary system, we think that, it can't be coming all by itself like a Big Bang theory. If there is something that is constructed, it should be that someone has constructed it. There is a person behind it. And we think that the whole universe floating in the air, the Earth planet is floating in the air, and that nobody has created it. So it's funny even to think about that. When I create a small thing at home, I'm sure that there is somebody behind it. And when something huge is there, I believe that there is nobody behind it. So Krishna enters into Mahatattva as Karanodakashaya Vishnu, and from his skin pores, universes are emanating. Every half a second of Krishna's time, universe goes, and when he breathes back, it comes back to him. So when we breathe also, our skin pores actually open up. So it is through his breathing. When he breathes in, the universes go into him. When he breathes out, the universes come out. He enters into each of these universes as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And he enters into the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and half of the universe is filled with Garbhodaka ocean. So he's lying down on Garbhodaka ocean, and from his navel sprouts a stem, and on top of the stem is a lotus flower. And the lotus flower is Brahmaloka, and the stem has all the 14 planetary systems. And of course, Earth planet is one of the planet in the middle planetary system. So depending on which level anybody is, they will be in that particular mode. People who are less than our Bhuvaloka, it is said that even sun planet doesn't go there. So they're always in darkness. We have at least sun coming up and going, they don't even see the sun. Anybody below us in that. So we actually exist in the lotus stem. And the Brahmaloka is on the top. So so Bhagavatam talks about all these in detail. So 3 Vishnus, and how is the universe created? Now, when he creates the human beings, he also enters into each and every atom as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, who's none other than Paramatma. That's why when we even hit a stool, we do this. Everything has Krishna in them all the time. So he says that Kshirodakashaya Vishnu is none other than the Paramatma in each and every soul, and who is actually trying to show the path to every living being, which direction you have to take. Sometimes when we do things and we think that, something is telling me not to do it. There have been situations where people say, I was going to do that, but something was avoiding. For pure devotees, they actually are able to follow what Krishna wants, because they have surrendered to Krishna, and they have told that whatever I do is just for you. And then Krishna shows them the right path. But again, the independence is within us. We have to make a choice. I have to make a choice to think that, whether I want to go this direction or whether I want to go that direction. Good and bad. I was remembering about Guru Maharaj, once he was telling about the bad dog and the good dog. You have to feed the good dog and not the bad dog. If you feed the bad dog, of course, things that come out are going to be the other way. And then the last and the 6th question that he asks is, where has the religion taken shelter after Krishna has returned to his own abode? This Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. When Krishna left abode, we're very lucky actually that Krishna left us just 5,000 earthly years. So if we start calculating from where we are today and go upwards, the number of years that people live becomes more and more. So for us it's 100 years in earthly realm, but in heavenly planets it's going to be 100 years in their realm. So Bhagavad Gita actually quotes, in one day of Brahma there are 14 Manus, and each of the Manu lives for so many thousands of years, millions of years. So I don't have the exact calculation, but we can imagine that everybody has a different higher level and the way that they live. And you can imagine that each of this universe lives only for a half a second of Karanodakashaya Vishnu's life. Half a second. He's breathing and breathing out the universes. And sometimes we think that, day is too short. So it's really tiny compared to Karanodakashaya Vishnu's expansion. So when Krishna has already left his abode, then he asks that where would people go now? I mean, they're all lost, right? He says that Srimad Bhavatam is the answer to all the questions. So any question we have from any field of knowledge, we can get it from Srimad Bhavatam. And I think I would like to thank everybody, and I'd like to have, I know so many devotees here, they all probably know Bhagavatam better than me, and thank you so much for letting me speak. I'd like to take any questions or comments. Anybody, any questions or comments? Maybe we can read a little bit from the second canto. Yes, Prabhu, you have a question? Yeah.
very basic question, Mataji. I mean, we all know this, the significance of the Bhagavatam and, what you mentioned earlier in the lecture, that we are all, it's like a dream. Moment someone, puts water on our face, we wake up and we realize we are not really suffering. But sometimes, in the material world, we are so much conditioned. We feel it's more of an austerity to wake up.
To wake up.
Yeah, it's, we are so much used to it, like doing the grill, that reading becomes like, oh, okay, now I have to. Why is it so? I mean, the soul's tendency should be like, if you give food to a hungry person, you should really relish it. The soul's tendency should be to really pick up this, but then, I mean, I even see sometimes in the kids, one negative thing and, it really affects. So, my question is, why the soul is supposed to be really attracted to all these things, but why doesn't it happen so easily?
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice question. I'll try my best to answer. Prabhu, soul is always eager to know Krishna, no doubt. But soul is conditioned at this moment, right? Krishna tells very nicely in Bhagavad Gita that, our mind is totally contaminated. Our intelligence is contaminated. Because for time immemorial, I've been in this situation, in this association. Now, we know attitudes are contagious. When we are with set of people who always talk about something, we just get influenced. We do, right? All the time. So he tells a very nice thing. He says, mind, the senses down here, the senses are controlled by the mind is controlled by intelligence, and intelligence is controlled by the soul. So you keep feeding the soul over and over by nice chanting. We just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So automatically the dust, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained so nicely in Chetu Darpanam Arjuna, he says the dust that is present in the mind of the mirror will get totally cleaned. It's totally reflecting something that is not. So mind is just like a mirror. Whatever you expose it to, it will reflect. You expose it to chanting. Usually people say, oh, I went to temple today, I'm feeling so nice. Why? Because I've exposed my mind to something nice. So it will keep reflecting something nice. Now I always feel, if I heard any horror story that night, I won't feel sleepy, because my mind continues to reflect the same thing over and over again. Like Sukadeva Prabhu always gives such nice examples and helps us understand the mind. So if you're able to control the mind is what is not letting us achieve what we have to achieve. And mind is actually, Krishna tells, can be the best friend and can also be the worst enemy, depending on what I do. Right? I know that this is the right route I want to take, and I want to do this in my life. But if I'm not able to control my mind, then that's the reason we need the mantra. Mantra, right? So it actually takes the suffering of the mind away. The mind is suffering over and over and over. It will make you think about bad things. It will make you think, even after going through the seminar of Sukadeva Prabhu, sometimes when we sit down, you're chanting, you'll be chanting, and you always chant. You always want to hear to the shloka, the mantra very clearly. Suddenly you will see that, my mind will say, you know what? You're supposed to get up and go finish up something else. That was very important. And then immediately he tells us, take it down. Whatever your mind says, just take it down, continue to chant. You go on, do that over and over and over again, you will be in a situation where you'll be able to control your mind completely. The mind, once it's controlled, the intelligence also, as we are chanting, the mind is controlled, the intelligence also will get controlled. Once the intelligence is controlled, it's easy now the soul is actually engaged with all these parts, and it's so hard for it to get released. The soul is going to be happy. When we chant, the soul is going to be most happy. The more we chant, the things that we used to like before probably don't taste that good anymore. Like I was thinking about, people who eat meat, right? They would have enjoyed the meat eating. The time they start chanting, automatically, it's not that somebody is telling them to stop meat. I remember Radha Gopinath Prabhu in Gopinath Temple used to always tell that, don't have to tell anything to people, just tell them to chant. Once you start chanting, everything that's not required will go away. So the same thing that I used to like before, my mind used to tell, oh, it's very yummy and things like that, now says, no, I just can't taste it. I don't want to eat meat. So things, similarly, all different things. So once the mind is under control, then the intelligence, and automatically everything will come back to its place. And soul will be happy. But at this moment, mind is controlling this intelligence is controlling the soul. It has to be the other way. The soul should control, using the intelligence, the mind, and automatically then the senses. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just had another simple example of just from my own experience. When I was living in Tokyo, they have at the time, I think they had the largest department store in the world. So you could get lost in there. I mean, for months, and maybe never find your way out. And they had everything from around the world that you could want. Everything, including food, all kinds of delicacies, all kinds of fine silks, everything, jewelry, everything that the designer bags. And I noticed at the time. I was meditating. I was doing chanting, but if I didn't meditate and I went to the department store, my desires just, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Oh, if I get this scarf, if I get this outfit, I need that scarf and bagged shoes, everything to go with it. And I noticed when I used to go stay at temples for, at least long weekends, sometimes for weeks or months at a time. And when I came back to Tokyo, the major train stations take you through this major. I had to go through the huge department store, and you have entrance from the basement. You can't get away from it. So I walked through it, and it was like a totally different world. No desire, no attachment. They were just plain objects that had nothing to do with me. It was very interesting, and I could tell the state of my mind from just, that was my test to see where I was in my sadhana, is to walk through the department store to see if I wanted to buy something or not.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that because it's kind of a little test.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Yes, Mahatma.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
For suppose if a mind is not controlling, if body is not controlling, even though you're so much things you're dedicated and you're doing, but in a particular time, if the mind and soul is not controlling your senses and everything, you're in the Krishna consciousness, you're doing so many responsibilities, and in that time, if you're getting so much disturbance in this mind, and for suppose we have kids and everything, sometimes we are so disturbed in the lot of things and everything. So how, in the best way, approaching to attach the Krishna, and what process we should do?
We should surely be chanting, Mataji. I know Krishna does say that we have to have patience, we have to do the endeavor, and there will be a result. It will come up. So it's like constant chanting, and what you could probably do is think about when you're chanting, maybe turn off the cell phones and have a particular time of the day. I've always felt, Vaisheshika Prabhu sent us one of the quotes that he always sends us. Once he had said that if you chant your 16 rounds at a stretch, you will feel a lot of difference. And I know it's an austerity, at least in my sense, it's an austerity to be getting up at 4 o'clock and chanting my 16 rounds before 6 and leaving home. But Krishna is going to, the result is going to depend on how much austere I'm going to be. So I'm going to make the time of at least an hour or 2 hours in the morning and think that this is Krishna's time. Because in the morning, nobody is going to call you at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, so there is no phone. You don't want to check your emails at that time from work, just keep that aside. And everybody at home is probably sleeping, or even if they are awake, they're probably chanting. So no disturbance at all. The home phone is not ringing. So if you're able to make the time and continue the process, because it is said that Brahma Muhurta is made for chanting. That's the best time that you can be chanting. So if after a long experience, if you're not able to find the thing, maybe associate with devotees and chant with them. And that helps a lot. And there are some wonderful japa conference calls that are available. And I also like one point of Burijana Prabhu in his japa book that he writes, that concentrate not on your 16 rounds, concentrate not on your one round. Just concentrate, you have to say the Hare Krishna Mahamantra only once. Like I just have to say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. My goal is not to do 108 or 16. When you do that, automatically, you have to listen to every word that you're saying. Even if you do 2 rounds, you feel so good because it really helps. So maybe we can look at the point that whether I'm saying the Mahamantra right, whether I'm listening to the Mahamantra, whether I choose a time when I am actually able to concentrate on the japa. Because sometimes I end up doing 2. It's more finishing rounds, but really when I give myself some time for Krishna, get up early in the morning and chant, my chanting and my consciousness the whole day changes.
And one more question:
Yeah.
how to remove our jealousiness and selfishness? Sometimes I will feel in my side I'm feeling some kind of jealousiness and selfishness. How to go? Even though I'm chanting, I'm doing it service now, but sometimes I'll feel very jealousiness. But at the moment I'm thinking, no, that is not a wrong way. But I try to get it out in the water. Again, any other process is there or not?
Very nice, Mataji. You're seeing so straightforward saying that. I'm sure many people might be feeling, I might be feeling, this is so nice that you're actually telling that's the first step to take that out. And also when you're chanting, one of the points that Burijana Prabhu also says that when you're chanting, pray to Krishna that I'm not able to take this out from me. Can you just walk into my heart and take it away? Every day when you chant, if you say that, then Krishna will surely help and you'll see a big difference. And again, that jealousiness or enviousness is because your mind is actually telling you to do it. Your mind is telling that, oh, you know what, that person seems to be better than you. And when I ignore my mind, I say that everybody is same under Krishna, and I'm actually the servant of that person, and I want to serve that person more. So automatically, because my mind is so conditioned for so many lifetimes, so it will take time to clean up. So my mind is always, going to have those thoughts. But the more I tell my mind that, no, I'm not going to feel like that, I'm going to let the thought go. Sukadeva Prabhu says, when thoughts, something bad comes in, let the thought go, don't give it attention. Then automatically the thought will not come. If I give a lot of attention to the thought, again and again I go back to the same scenario of, feeling enviousness or feeling, or thinking bad about others or doing prajalpa, or, anything that is not required.
And one more thing, my son is asking about we can pray to the demigods, or we should respect the demigods, or only the Krishna is a supreme, or because sometimes telling that Shiva is a supreme and Lord Brahma. No, I think Brahma is not supreme, but he's a demigod. But everybody, Durga and everything, we should take the respectful from them, or what else?
So, Mataji, you went to say that should we pray to demigods? Or it's like this, if I have a beautiful banyan tree, and I can go to pray to the whole banyan tree, or I can go to each and every leaf, each and every twig and pray. So if I pour water into the root of the banyan tree, automatically every part of the tree will be taken care. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know that from Srimad Bhavatam. The more we read Bhagavatam, we'll get to know. So as far as praying to Brahma is actually a living entity, and he is 51 years old today, according to Brahmaloka time. And so we get to know that from Srimad Bhagavatam. He's 51-year-old, and he, usually the post of Brahma is given to somebody really elevated, a very highly elevated devotee living entity. And we get to know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that he is none other than Haridas Thakur. So that is the position of Brahma, and there is no way I can disrespect any demigod, because they are in a position, because they understand this universal manifestation more than me. So I have to have complete respect. I cannot say that I don't care for anybody. It's like paying obeisance to Vaishnavas. We are thinking about every soul that's walking on this, it could be an ant or a spider. I want to give respect to them, because I don't want to heard them. So when I'm doing that, of course I have to give respect to all the demigods. As far as Lord Shiva is concerned, Lord Shiva is a guna avatar of Krishna. He comes in the mode of ignorance to do the annihilation. At the end of the universe, when the universe is going to be annihilated, so at that time Shiva, we know the Tandava Nrityam and things like that. So there is a purpose of that particular form of Krishna, right? So yes, everybody, when we actually see, there's a beautiful picture of the whole universal creation. If you see, after the Brahma Jyoti, there is a small part which is a Kailasha. And people who are very attached to Shiva actually reach there. And Shiva is always meditating. If you actually see a picture of Shiva, he is always chanting. Now, we know from Srimad Bhavatam that he is chanting to Krishna. He knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. I can never think of not respecting Lord Shiva, because Shiva actually, he was ready to die for the sake of everybody else. He drank the Kalakuta that came out from the churning of the milk ocean, and that's why he has this blue neck. And Mother Parvati actually held his neck so that the poison doesn't go into his body. So he's amazing. I mean, we have to take the blessings of Shiva. If we don't get blessings of Shiva, we're not achieving Krishna. We cannot tell, I don't care for anybody, I just need to reach Krishna. No, it's not like that. But we still know none of them can actually give us the route to the spiritual world. They all can give us happiness in the material world. Like for example, Durga is the caretaker of this prison house. Durgam in Sanskrit means a prison house. And Durga Devi is caretaker of the prison house. So she's there in each and every universe, and she sees to it, she's a sister of Krishna, right? So she sees to it that everybody is kept under her clutches if they want to enjoy away from Krishna. As soon as they want to enjoy, they don't want to enjoy without Krishna, she will immediately leave the clutches. She'll let us go. She will not touch any devotee. But again, she knows who's Krishna. She knows that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not that there are sometimes people think, I'm a little afraid, I'm a little afraid that I might be cursed by some demigods because I don't worship them. But they are all in a better situation. They understand. Lord Shiva, Parvati, Durga, they understand exactly Krishna is the Supreme. So, you don't have to separately worship them. When you worship Krishna, you're automatically worshipping them. And Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that people who want to please just the demigods are doing the worship in the wrong way. So if you just pray, if you're able to pray to Krishna and just please Krishna, that's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Do we have any questions? Is Sundaranand Prabhu here, Prabhuji? We were going to do chanting around, if he was able to. The beats. How about we do some bhajan till Prabhuji finds the beats? Yeah, thank you. So the chant is actually Hare Krishna. Raman Saka Prabhu is there? Prabhu, can you put on the Hare Krishna Mantra? Hare Krishna Mantra. The chant is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is not different to touching Krishna, not different to hugging Krishna, because Krishna's name and his form and his pastimes are all absolute. So Prabhupada explains this very nicely. He says that when I'm thirsty in the material world, I have to go get a glass of water and drink it. But in the spiritual world, I just say water, my thirst gets quenched. Because everything is absolute there. There's no relative. Water means there is some water in the cup, that's water, right? In the material world. But in the spiritual world, whatever I say is what I attain to. So when I say Krishna, when I say Krishna, I'm actually touching Krishna. I'm in association of Krishna. When I say Hare, I'm in contact with Radharani. So we'll hold on to the beads, and maybe we will do some kirtan and then we'll chant on the beads. Thank you. So we'll just do some kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Krishna. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mohan Radhe. Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Now we'll start chanting. I'll run round. Do all of you have a bead? He needs one extra bead, I think, Prabhu. No, Prabhuji, on the back. You. I thought he needed one. So we're not going to use this finger of ours, and we're just going to move the beads like this. For each bead that we move, we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We can try to go in synchrony. We'll just go like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah. And it's 108 bead, and we'll go over one round. We just do a pranam mantra before we start usually. We say our Guru Maharaj's name, we say Prabhupada's name, and then we can just start with Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much. If we would usually recommend everybody to chant on their beads every day, at least a minimum of one round. That's 108 beads. If any of you do not have a bead with you, please contact myself or Vrindavan Priya Prabhu, who's in, if we can actually, or Hari Sankirtan Prabhu, who's on the back. He will be able to get you a set of beads from the gift shop. Thank you so much. We'll get ready for Kirtan and we'll put away all the placemats and the books away. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.